Well, here we go again. The chat window doesn't work. Hello. I know it's a late one. I don't usually do them this late, but I figured at least drop a line. Wouldn't be right if I didn't do it. So just drop in to say hello. I know some of you on the West Coast, it's not that late. It's probably, 6:48, maybe 7:48, something like that. But anyway, hey, what's going on? How are we this evening? So far, you're the only one here. I don't know that anybody else will show up either. Well, I figured I'd give it a shot for a little bit and see what happens. Anyway. So I get to go through the. What's up, Jerry? I get to go through the process of trying to refinance my house. Yay! Try to take advantage of some of these great interest rates that are going on right now. I know I'm late. I said 8-ish. We were at some friend's house playing in the pool. So can't blame me for that. It's hot down here. So, but anyway, yeah, I get to go through the fun stuff of doing my house refinance. I'm not looking forward to that, but I want to try to get it down. I don't want to be paying on this house when I'm 65. Of course, wife wants to just sell everything and go traveling full time. I says, I can't do that. I says, I still like to piddle with my cars. I don't know if I'll ever get out of that. Besides that, I like stability. I like having a roof over my head and some land. 6-hit pickup, 400 transmission. You told me that you could change out to 490. Yeah, that should be right. The 400 and the 4L80 should have the same tail shaft. The physical size of the two transmissions, if I remember right, are identical. I know that a lot of the parts that they sell for a 400 turbo will work in a 4L80 and vice versa. So, I mean, that's probably the way I would go. Grass seed. Oh, goodness, it's too hot for grass seed down here. In fact, we've actually been through a spell. No way, go travel. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've seriously thought about it. It's something that I've wanted to do for years. We always thought it'd be cool just to hop in, kind of like what you guys are getting ready to do. I've thought about going out full time too, but we're not in a situation where we can do that just yet. I mean, we've got a lot of decisions to make. Plus, we got too many four-legged kids, and we got 2 horses out there that believe it or not, I do care about. And I'd hate to see what happened to them because they'd probably end up in a glue factory somewhere. And I know that's kind of cruel to say, but yeah, I'm just a huge animal lover. We got a house full of them. Well, except for the horses. The horses got to stay outside. I don't think they can come in the house. Wouldn't be a good idea. They might like the air conditioning, though. I wouldn't like it if they left a mess, though. Did their business inside the house. That'd be a huge mess. But anywho, man, I looked up some of the prices. I looked at some of the prices. I had some people ask me about I think Jerry asked me about I've got the Overrun and the Ford clutch seal protector for putting the input housing together on a 700 4L60E, so on and so forth. The place I got it from doesn't carry them anymore. The place is still in business. It's called Trans Tool. And I can't remember what I paid for them, but I don't think I paid as much as they want. Even the GM one's expensive. GM one cost me $66, and for one, and the Ford one is $120. Yeah, yep, my blue tools that I got. But I know that I didn't pay that much for them, but everything else has gone up, so why not the tools too, But there was a couple of them. There's some aftermarket street side tools, I think it was, that I found that was out there. You can get them on eBay just about anywhere, but they've got equivalents that are really economically priced, and I think those are made out of metal. And I think each one of them, I think they were both around $45, which that would be economical to. I don't know that you could make it that cheap. I mean, you might be able to, but you have the time and the money. I looked up GM's bushing installer kit for the 4L60E and 700, and that thing, that thing was like $1,900 for their bushing kit. And E-Room, to answer your question, yes, I build a lot of 6L80s. That is pretty much my bread and butter at work right now. That's the one that fails all the time. 6L80s and 6L90s, more 6L80s than 90s though. In fact, I got one on my bench. I'm waiting on a converter on it, and they're on back order because I can't keep up with the demand because they're junk. Other than that, it's really a good transmission. I mean, if the converter wouldn't fail and take out half the rest of the transmission, then you'd be in good shape. But yeah, they're good transmission. I've got one here at the house. I was going to use it for one of my Camaros, but haven't quite decided on that yet. Because I'd really like to put it in Scarlet. I think that would be awesome. Now the 6L80 is a GM, Jerry. GM uses a 6L80 and a 6L90. They've got an 8L. They've got a 6L50, which is just a baby version. They got a 6L50, a 6L80, a 6L90. They've got an 8L45, an 8L90, and a 10L90 right now, and then they got the 10L1000, which is behind the Duramax. And even though they claim it's an Allison, it's not an Allison. It's not built anything like an Allison. Allison doesn't build 10-speed automatics. They don't. Well, not in the light duty line. They may do it in the heavy line, but not in the light duty. But yeah, I build a lot of the 6L80s. They're really a pretty neat transmission. They're pretty simple to do. They got some snap rings that you got to make sure to get in the right place. But other than that, and they got a Jihugic one right in the middle of the case. It takes these freaking pliers that, I mean, they're a big clamping plier. They're huge. But yeah, I do a lot of those. Most of them are pretty smoked by the time I get them. In fact, I think the one that I've got out in my shop out here at the house is 89 S10 700 R4 having trouble with the lockup. As soon as the smooth as butter, the 4-pin disconnected the converter going bad. Well, to be honest with you, Darren, that probably the solenoid's probably bad. The actual TCC solenoid itself, and if thinking the converter's going bad, I mean it could, but then again, it sounds more like to me it might be a pressure issue. You know, it could be on that. There's a small O-ring on the input shaft, and if that thing gets crusty and hard, it won't seal like it's supposed to. But they usually flatten it out. I mean, this thing's probably, this O-ring that seals that's probably no bigger than your pinky. Hey, Steven, I did get my mop cut finally. Did that this morning. Man, that was a freaking relief. Yeah, and Darren, it possibly could be. They've had a bunch of updates that you can do to those for, especially for line pressure. You can update the pump with different springs and all sorts of good stuff. A lot of that stuff on the pump you can do without taking the transmission out, obviously, except for the converter. I mean, if you got to put a seal on the end of the input shaft, you're going to have to take the transmission out. But 89 S10, that would have been a 2.8 liter probably. 2.8 liter with V6. Really? Your 89's got a 4.3 in it? Oh, that's a bonus. I guess they did start coming out with those in, what, 86 or so? Your 89 will actually have some balls to it then. Because them 2.8 liters didn't have a lot of guts to them. But yeah, then a lot of that stuff in the 80 in that 4.3. Well, yeah, your grandfather knew how to order one for sure. Them 4.3s will run forever. Those are great engines. That's one of GM's better engines they ever came up with, besides the old small block. Nice. 89,000. Yeah, I would be I'd probably yank it out and do a few upgrades to it and should be fine. But I mean, there's a possibility that the internal harness or the TCC solenoid itself is bad, which is part of the internal harness. The 4L65E is a little better transmission. In fact, that's more equivalent to what I built you on your Project Z28. It's pretty much got the same guts in it a 4L65E would have that you'd find behind. Well, it being a GTO, you'd find them in a Denali with a 6-liter in it. The only difference is obviously yours is hydraulically controlled versus electronics, but there you go. That's exactly what I'd do too. I'd build up a one separate and just whenever you get ready, just swap it out. Darren, you also got to check out, if you want to do that for 700, check out the playlist for L to the W. I built him a 700 R4 for his Project Z28. That a lot of that stuff, you could use the same process for your S10, just changing just minor stuff. I mean, you wouldn't need to put near the stuff in it that I did with that one, but it's a good video to watch. I thought about just doing more of a stock build on one of those too. Yeah, that's cool. L to the W is also known as Vetruski Channels or Vetruski Travels, which is in the chat room right now too. He's the one I built the transmission for. So, yeah, she's always screaming at me, Steven. Yes, if you change your converter out on 6L80, it could live a long time. How many? What year is your 6L80 in, Eron? E-room? Well, I don't know if it's E-room. Yeah, she's already rubbing my leg, Steven. Don't get her started. More than likely, it was crushed. To be honest with you, it was probably disintegrated. And I could have sworn when you pulled that speedo sensor out the first time, I seen something laying in the bottom of the housing that may have come out on the floor or something like that. Because I could swear that I never took that clip out. I just don't remember taking the gear off of that thing. In fact, I don't know if I still have them on this drive. They're on the other drive. Do. Not in that one. That's part 3. Five. Yeah, I seen you. I seen you working on it. The last video that you had out. I'm gonna go through the old videos because to see if it was even there. Because I mean, I don't remember taking that gear off of that shaft. So, what's up, Mr. Dr. Remilak? 04 GMC electrical nightmare. Yeah. I tell you what, I've had some electrical nightmares at work that has just been kicking my ass. I had a 2021 Silverado with a Duramax in it. This is a half ton. It had the new Duramax in it, the 3-liter diesel, which is a neat truck, by the way. But anyway, this thing wouldn't come out of park, and they've got an electronic Bitsy solenoid in it, brake, transmission, shift, interlock solenoid. In other words, it won't let you shift it out of park if you don't put your foot on the brake. When you put your foot on the brake, it energizes the solenoid. Then you can pull the lever out of drive. Well, this thing would it would work, then it wouldn't work. It'd work, then it wouldn't work. And they had a bulletin, so I replaced the control on it, which has the new solenoid in it, put it back together. And so I get this thing, I put a control in it, and it worked fine. Shifted gears, just did what it was supposed to do. So I shipped it. Came back on the hook not a couple miles later after he'd been home with it or something like that, doing the same thing. Couldn't get it out of gear. I'm on the phone with GM Technical on it because this is a brand new truck. And so I checked the power at the body control module because this all goes through the body control module. And it only had like 2.9 volts on that signal line, which is supposed to have 12. I was like, well, that's odd. So they have you go through and check powers and grounds, obviously, and your wire integrity from the BCM to the solenoid. And it worked, and it was fine, but for the life of me, I couldn't figure out. There's a connector down on the left toe board, like around where the park brake foot pedal would be. There's a connector in there, and I checked it, and it was good. And it's like, guys, I don't have any idea where to go with this thing. So they said, put a BCM in it. Says, all right. So I put a body control module in it. Didn't fix it. They says, well, we're just going to send out a field service engineer. Says, you do that. Says, because I want to see him find this thing. And I'll be damned if he didn't find it. There's the wiring diagram doesn't exactly show this circuit in line with it. Oh yeah, it's just insane. But he found, apparently there's an internal relay in the body control module that wasn't getting the right power. Well, it doesn't show it in the wiring schematic. And after digging and looking in the right places, he found where it comes through. Well, there's another connector for the instrument panel that's on the right side of the dash on the toe board. He pulled that out, and sure enough, the wire that supplies the power to that circuit for the BCM, the connector body from the factory was broke, that holds the terminal in the connector body so it can make contact with the other side. and it would push the connector to push the terminal out of there. And every once in a while it would make connection and things would work. And it was insane. And so we ended up having to move it to a different hole, different open terminal in the block, put everything back together, and it worked like a charm. So that was one electrical nightmare I had. Then I got this Malibu, this 2019 Malibu, that has just had communication codes out the yin yang. It had, this last time it came in, it had 33 codes in it. And, but most of it was loss of communication between certain module. And 6 different modules were setting these communication codes. And it was for like CAN bus off, which CAN bus is a type of network that GM uses. GM uses now what they call a MOST network, a LIN network, a high-speed CAN, low-speed CAN, and a couple of other ones that are just crazy. But anyway, I'm searching this thing, taking connectors apart, doing pin drags on the communication line, which is what the problem, was related to, and digging around. And this one particular part of it was set in a code, and it was for the power steering control module, because on that year it's got electric power steering. And so it was setting a communication problem. And this thing was freaky too, because when I test drove this car, this thing started acting up, and the instrument panel just went dark. The car's still running. It has very little power, but it's still running. But the thing went dark. And I'm going around the corner, and I'm trying to get back to the shop with this thing. Then all of a sudden, everything came back on, and zoom, away I went, And craziest dang thing I ever seen. So I was like, I'm looking at these codes, and the power steering control module seems to be setting some different codes than the other modules. And I was like, I'm going to go there. So I pulled the connector off the steering rack. And I don't know if you can see that or not. It's not a real good picture, but if you notice the 2 terminals on it, on the right side, that second from the end one on the bottom row, is got something in it, and it was like contaminated with I don't know what. So basically I wanted to replace those 2 terminals. The only way you get them is what they call a terminated leads. In other words, it's got the terminal already crimped on it, and you replace the wire with the terminal. So I put those 2 terminals in there, put the thing together, and away it goes. What do you mean where the ground wire is, Doc? Oh, E-Ron, if you're still on there, your 2015 was one of the ones that the reason why I asked that is the early 6L80s didn't have a lot of problems with their converters. It was only the later model ones that started having problems, and 2015 is one of them. But yeah, I would replace it with a good converter. If you can get the kit for the Superior makes a kit for it, but it has to do with the pump. If you're not having an issue with it, I would just replace the converter with a good converter, replace the O-ring that's at the end of the shaft, and go down the road with it. Doc, I'm trying to follow you on your electrical nightmare. Remind me what you're chasing. Jerry, you can't always find them with the scanner. Let me tell you that it's not how that exactly works. Sometimes it'll lead you in the right direction. Sometimes it won't. Oh yeah, the Savannah with the Savannah with the trans issue. Okay, so I know that you said that you were going to do plugs and wires to get the thing all running fair and square again. I'm assuming that you did that. Yeah, with 4L80E, and you said it was doing something funky with the transmission, if I remember right. Yeah, the bang shifting. Have you been able to pull any codes on this thing, Doc? Sometimes they'll set codes and stuff like that, and you can look to see, at least what it's setting. $30 codes? Oh, good Lord. Okay, so where do you start with that? Basically, what I'd say is you'd be looking for codes that are anything above a PO700. PO700 is TCM has requested check engine light if it had a separate TCM, which it doesn't. But anything above a PO700 will be a transmission code. Usually PO700 to PO900 in that range. Anything above that can be O2 sensors and oddball stuff. If you get a code for like a PO101, which is a mass air, TCC high pressure, and the beat goes on. Okay. If you're setting a torque converter code and a high pressure code, which not necessarily high pressure, but if the TCM or if the transmission loses some of its voltage, obviously, or if it will shift hard. For sure, it will shift hard, but it's a red wire pin E. I think pin E, if on the transmission connector, should have battery voltage on it, and then everything else is regulated through the PCM. But if it sets codes like that, usually it's because it's lost voltage to the transmission. Yeah. You told me it was leaking. Which is a common problem. Like I said, that wiring harness on the inside is not too big a deal to replace, because it'll come with a new plug and everything. But the ground for the transmission on that one, or ECM ground, there'll be a couple of harness grounds on the back of the cylinder heads. Be two, I think one or two on each side. There's also a main chassis ground, usually on a body mount frame horn on the driver's side underneath the van box itself. Another thing to look for is these vans had a bad issue with the underhood fuse box because of where it's mounted. Because it mounts right underneath of the brake master cylinder and booster, and on a 4L80E, that means it's going to have hydro boost. So if it's had power steering fluid leaking on top of that thing for a period of time, it will give you fits. I'm telling you, I've been there. Had one with a fuel pump issue, and it kept burning up the wire. It kept burning up the wire, and what I ended up doing was taking the fuse box. The harnesses will unplug from the bottom of the fuse box, and you flip it over, and you could see where it had actually melted the terminal in the fuse box, because it was drawing too much amperage because it couldn't make a good connection. So, make sure those grounds are good. Again, you can take the umbilical cord off the side of the transmission, which I call that the umbilical cord because that's basically its lifeblood. Test pin E, which will be a pink wire. You should have battery voltage on when the key's on, because the transmission or the power PCM controls the solenoids via ground. In other words, it's always got power to all the solenoids inside the transmission. The PCM PCM regulates the grounds. The pressure control solenoid will be I'm drawing a blank. Pulse width modulated. In other words, it can change the voltage of it, and that changes the pressure in the transmission. So if you get one that's a bang shift and it's got high pressure in it, usually that means that there's no current going to that solenoid, because that's its default. If it loses power, it puts the maximum line pressure in that transmission, and it will hammer gears like what you're talking about. And of course, I asked about if you got a mass airflow that's if the mass airflow gives a funky reading back to it, it's not reading the right reading, or if it's reading too much or something like that, then it will adjust the transmission accordingly. The mass airflow is an important part of the transmission, and believe it or not, for controlling it. Well, I'm glad I could help you out. I sure appreciate that. Stephen, that's good news. I mean, yeah, that's possible. I mean, the relays do have a tendency to burn up, turn that AC compressor on and off quite a bit. So at least you got it back up and going. And Doc, you got to on the codes, you got to think about looking at the codes. You got to go through, well, especially if you got one that's multiple codes. If you got every code in the transmission setting, that's a pretty good indication that it's probably lost voltage that'll set multiple codes. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's been humid as like nobody's business down here lately. I mean, we've gotten rain and pretty substantial rain almost every afternoon down here lately. And of course, we are in rainy season, but man, the humidity down here, look out. Whew. By the time the Friday gets around, I'm wiped from sweating all week, sweating my butt off. And if any of y'all follow me on Instagram, I've been doing I gave a transmit or piston job to a transmission guy at work, which I don't mind. I love working on them little engines. Them things are cool. But I got to fix the piston problem first. So not necessarily. The loss of voltage can be caused by just loss of voltage to the transmission. In other words, the pink wire terminal E. If it loses that power, then you need to find out why it's lost the power, and either it's popped a fuse because it'll have a separate fuse. Excuse me. I think they call it TB trans on that, and it's probably in the underhood fuse box. But yeah, the grounds are probably okay. But the grounds are done through the solenoids, and the grounds are controlled by the PCM. Yeah, you can for test purposes if you need to see if it's got power to that terminal, but you'll have to jump it to where if you're going to run it that way for a period of time, it needs to be on a switched 12-volt power. And just like I said, just check there and go from there. I'm not one to recommend doing that on a permanent basis because you're not actually finding the root cause of the problem to make everything work right. And I understand if you're not trying to put a lot of time or effort in a van that's what is that, 17 years old. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you could do that if you had to do it. Just make sure it's got a good fused 12-volt source. Let me see if I can look that up real quick for you. Oop. Can't remember the password. All right, get the old service information here. 2004 GMC Savannah. Transmission 4L80 schematic. All right. Yes, it has the fuse is in the underhood fuse block, and it is terminal E on the transmission. The fuse is labeled ignition 0, fuse number 6, and it's a 10 amp fuse. What else does that power? It's ignition 0 fuse. It's fuse number 6, and it should be a 10 amp, which 10 amp I do believe is a red fuse. If I remember right, because 15's a blue, and I think 20's yellow. I think. I'm doing this all from memory here, but we'll see what other things this thing powers. Power distribution, wire schematics. Okay, well, that fuse also has a splice in it, and it powers. It supplies a power to the PCM and the BCM. So it looks like the possibility of the fuse being bad is probably pretty slim unless you've got BCM and PCM codes. Also, BCM will be obviously it'll have a B code, it'll be a B something, something, something. Yeah, so on and so forth. I don't know that you would have other power if that fuse was bad, but that doesn't mean that on the other side of that connector that you may have an issue. Look at that other wiring diagram again. Yeah, it makes a direct shot. So, I mean, after it comes out of the fuse box under the hood, that's where it splits off. It tells me it's connector C1, which is a light gray connector, terminal F3. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to have, it's a direct shot out of that connector from basically from the fuse box down to the transmission. So if that wire is good from the fuse box down to there, then I would suspect that you get another issue. Yeah, Doc, if you get a chance and if it doesn't happen on this little chat session here, live stream, you're more than welcome to send it to my email. Send it send the codes to my email address, and I can look to see if I can help you pinpoint or pin something down to look at. Give me a better picture of what you're dealing with. Oh, there I am. Oh, goodness. That's probably one of the latest live streams I've done. Do. Well, yeah, Jerry. I mean, you could run into all sorts of wire and harness issues in that year. It just all depends on how it was used. Yeah, Stephen, I've not been doing too bad. In fact, I've got another one. Obviously, you guys can't see it. I'm working on editing some more of Austin's 4L60E build that I did. But should have another one out at noon tomorrow. And been trying to do them 3 a week if I can. The only reason why I had to delay there is I hadn't had a chance to get them edited and get them out. I don't know if it helps from channel or nothing, but I need to get that one video that goes viral or something like that. Get some more likes and subscribers and that kind of stuff. But I haven't been doing too bad. But my videos aren't made for everybody. I'm not a huge entertainer or nothing like that, but more of a teacher. Jerry, you have yourself a good night. And I'm sure we'll talk real soon. Jerry's a good guy. I like Jerry. He cracked me up the other day. He put it says I'm putting Smitty's video to my Facebook in case I get dementia. And I just had to laugh at that. That was pretty funny. It was great. That'd be something I'd come up with. Seems like the older I get, memory doesn't go that good, but cracks me up. Nothing wrong with that, Jerry. You know, I've been wanting to see that. I never have seen it yet. I didn't see it in the theater. I noticed a lot of the good night, Jerry. I noticed a lot of the movies coming out. They're saying that they're only available in theaters, so they're trying to get more people back in the theater. And I think it's great. I love going to movie theater, but holy cow, did it get expensive too, just like everything else. It's crazy. It is crazy. we went to the store and finally bought some meat that we needed because we were getting so thin in the freezer. And I still got a bunch of, I vacuum pack it and we keep it for when we can get to it or whatever we want to cook. And man, meat is stupid expensive. They call them, we've got a local, yeah, Steve and I'm the same way, or I'll wait until it comes out on Amazon Prime or something like that, and I'll watch a movie on that because that's just easy. It's right there in the house and don't have to go anywhere. Yeah, we didn't buy any hamburger right now because it really wasn't a good sale at all. Not on ground chuck, which is what we usually get, the 80/20. The 73% is way too fatty, and then the 90/10 is way too lean. So the 80/20 is the best stuff to get. Just got about the right amount of fat content in it. But yeah, we got this place down here called Ward's Supermarket, and it's just a family-owned business that is just a small grocery store that carry a lot of natural stuff. Things that you don't usually see in other store, and they got a great butcher in there. And from what I understand, I think I've heard them right, that they raise their own cattle that they use there, and their beef is so good. You pay for it though. I mean, they call them Delmonico's, which is basically a ribeye, but they got thin and thick or something like that. But they're like, what did we pay for it? I think it was $14.99 a pound, which is quite a bit higher than the last time I bought it. I think it was like $11.99 a pound the last time I bought them there. But their meat are so much better than getting it from the chain stores. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, the local Winn-Dixie down here, grocery store usually is pretty good as far as meat. In fact, they did have some good prices on some chicken. And so I picked up a bunch of that, some thighs, and my wife likes legs, and I like the boneless chicken breast. And they had a bunch of that stuff on sale that was a good price. So I bought a bunch of that, and I'll vacuum pack it and put it in the freezer. I got to get it while it's on sale, you know. But oh yeah, you can do so much with those. I used to make my own spicy chicken breast. I haven't made those in forever. But I used crushed up cornflakes with a little bit of cayenne pepper and some salt, pepper, a little bit of paprika, and mixed it all up, breaded it, and then baked it. And oh man, they're so good. So good. But anymore, I love to grill. And I still use charcoal. I'm old fashioned like that. I like using charcoal. Use the little, they call them tumbleweeds. You can buy them at Walmart. And they're great for lighting the charcoal and not getting all that lighter fluid taste. So yeah, yeah, yeah. I used to do that too when I was a bachelor. Um, I used to do a lot of frozen stuff, but anymore I've gotten to the point where it's it's like you say, it's not good for you. Um, a lot of times I'll make stuff ahead of time if I want to and just freeze it, and it works good. And I'll make a bunch of it at one time. Like usually, if I make like a pot of chili, um, I'll make I'll use like 10 pounds of ground chuck at a time. And by the time I'm done, yeah, Doc, I'd say if you've got that much oil it's probably come from the power steering lines from the Hydro Boost. You probably got a power steering line that's leaking, or it's been seeping for a period of time. But yeah, that's like I said, that fuse block for unknown reasons and just a fantastic spot. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just send it to me and I'll look at it and see if I can point you in the right direction anyway, help you get through this. Not saying I can help you as much as I can, but I'll do my best. Yeah, it's better if I'm right there with it. Yeah, I love making chili. I usually cut up some um, cut up some sirloin and stick in it too, and I'll put chunk beef in it along with the ground beef. And my wife doesn't particularly like it that way. In fact, she'll pick them out, but man, is it good. Especially after it's been set for a day or two and all the spices have worked in. Whoo! Yeah, look out. I wish I told the wife, says, if I ever got to the point where I could have a professional kitchen in my house, I'd be in trouble because I love to cook and I love to experiment with different flavors. Um, I'm not near good enough to be on one of those shows like Master Chef or anything like that. I'm just a normal guy. Believe it or not, I love to bake too. I love. Um, my mom taught me how to make pie crust from scratch, and I've done it several times. There was one year I made like 20 pies for Christmas and handed them out, different pies, and I made pumpkin and apple. I used Granny Smith apples. Well, I appreciate it, Doc. I'm hope it helps you. I'm getting anxious to get back to working on the donor too. But I would love to have a kitchen that had a nice Viking stove. Uh, yeah, I'm like you, Stephen. I love pumpkin pie. But boy, you don't want to eat too much of it. Nah, you don't need no whipped cream on there. Come on now. But to each his own. Everybody likes whipped cream on some stuff. If it's real stuff, it's got to be real stuff. You can't put no Cool Whip on there. That's like fake. I don't know what that is, but the real dairy whipped cream's okay. I would still eat it on the pumpkin pie if it came that way. Well, Doc just checked it. If you've got yeah, I'd agree to that. Now you don't have to have it swimming in the whipped cream. Come on. That'd run the pumpkin pie. Well, you want a whipped cream pie or you want a pumpkin pie? No, I did not. I didn't know what it was about. I know that it probably has to do something with the 45th that we had, but I didn't get a chance to watch any of it. And Doc, I would just get you a test lighter, DVOM, and check that terminal down there at the transmission. With the key on, it should light up bright. If it lights that light up bright, then you know you've got power down there to your transmission that you may have another issue. Steven, I'm one of those guys that I like rhubarb. Man, rhubarb is good pie, especially strawberry rhubarb. Oh boy, look out. Good stuff. I'll eat about any pie except for pecan pie. Ugh, nasty. I won't eat pecan pie and I won't eat gooseberry pie. I'll eat about any other kind of pie, any other traditional kind of pie. Even shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is good too. Lemon meringue's all right, as long as the meringue is made correctly. But most of the time, I'll be honest with you, I'll take about half of the meringue off the top, and because otherwise, to me, it's too overwhelming. But I do like lemon meringue too. Faux show. Sweet potato pie is very good. And a lot of people don't understand, they look at that and say, oh, Jamaica pumpkin pie? No, that's a sweet potato pie. Ew, what's a sweet potato pie? Try it and you'll like it. But yeah, sweet potato pie is one of them good ones. Of course, that chain one, Mrs. Smith's pies, those aren't too bad for being store-bought frozen pies. They're not bad at all. And they make a sweet potato. Excuse me. Goodness. Hoof herded. Yep, pumpkin pie and apple. My wife likes Dutch apple. Dutch apple, the one with the crumble crust on top of it. That's pretty good, but I kind of like the traditional apple with, the two crust on it. And Mom always made it and put a little sugar on top of the top crust. She used to take the leftover pie crust and just make a shepherd's pie with lamb. Yes, sir. Cherry pie is really good. It's really good with Bing cherries. Man, Steven, the cornbread's got to be made right, boy. If cornbread is dry, count me out. But I mean, if it's made right and it's moist, oh yeah. Yams are good too, for sure. Let's see who hollering at me here. Somebody asking about my air conditioner I got for sale. Bowl of cereal. Yeah, it's kind of what happens when when everybody starts talking about food. It makes somebody hungry. Apple Crisp is really good stuff. Man, we used to have that. They used to fix that in grade school. I remember they used to make apple crisp in grade school. I was trying to figure out what I heard clicking, and it was my dog was on the floor dreaming. Chicken and dumplings? Oh, hell yes. My wife found this recipe that you can do in the crock pot, and it turns out really flipping good. Yeah, you can't hardly get enough of chicken and dumplings. I love a chicken pot pie. I like just normal pot pie, but a chicken pot pie. Ooh, I'm gonna make some for this winter. Figure out some way to freeze them and stuff and make them from scratch. But yeah, chicken pot pie. Chicken dumplings. No, it's not hard at all, other than you have to pull the transmission out. But depending on the year, it should have a retainer on it. Just pull the retainer off, pop your seal out, smack a new seal in there, and put your retainer back on. Don't forget your O-ring for your torque converter on the input shaft. I've not had the Dinty Moore canned chicken and dumplings. I don't have not tried that. And yes, Doc, that is correct. Pink wire. Make sure you got 12 volts DC. No, it's terminal E on there, and you should be able to see either on the back of the connector, if you clean it off a little bit, back of the connector, or the white piece that's in the center of the connector. They should be labeled, but E is going to be like towards the side. There'll be like 4 on the top, and then there's like 6 and the 6, and then 4 again. And you should have 12 volts with the key on that wire. I'm missing out, huh? So you're saying I had to probably try the Denny more and try it. Hey, Josh, what's happening, buddy? How are you? It's kind of late for me to do one of these live streams, but we had some other obligations. So, okay, well, we were out with some friends in the pool party. It was hot, and they got a pool and we don't, and all right, I'll see if I can find it down there. I'll take your advice. A lot of that canned stuff's got a lot of sodium in it, so I got to kind of be careful with that. Excuse me. Right? Yeah, it's kind of funny. He says, can't complain. Well, it's just like, who's going to listen anyway, Can't be worse than, no, I'm not going there. I don't know that I've tried the beef stew either. The Campbell's chunky stuff is not too bad. I think the wife's had the chicken and dumplings from Campbell's, the chunky stuff. But I have not. We get those as a backup. We get those as a backup when neither one of us want to cook or something like that. We'll throw a can of soup out and that's dinner, It's tough to eat right when you're busy 90% of the time. Although you try. Is that supposed to be iconic or, one of those inside jokes? Since you kind of are. Just not directly related anyway. Man, my foot is killing me. Ooh. I got a blister under that dude. Yeah, I know that is. It's just kind of like I'm not part of Mrs. Smith's pies either. I got the same name, but I wasn't supposed to say that, was I? But I ain't got none of the money either. I'm just a poor old white boy trying to get through this world. Taking what they're giving because I'm working for a living. Oh, anyway. This didn't turn out to be too bad for a live stream, being a last minute late nighter. Oh, Lordy. Well, I can say the same thing in the automotive and doing transmission work for a dealership. It's hard to make any money there. That's for dang sure. Got to jump through hoops and through trapeze and all that other stuff to maybe get paid the time that you deserve to get paid for the job you've done. But me, I'm one of those people that yes, Doc. That is a very good point. Yeah, flat rate is brutal for sure. I mean, I'm paid pretty good for a flat rate hour, but it doesn't do you a hill of beans if you don't get paid the hours you're supposed to do. And most of it has to do with the warranty clerk. Too afraid to bill GM for the time that you got put into it. And Doc, on the ignition switch, it is possible that you have one leg of the ignition switch dead. Even though some of the stuff inside it works and some of it doesn't. I did have a Trailblazer back in the day when I was working on those. Lost part of that particular circuit. But chances are, if you've got 12 volts at that fuse, then that's not going to be the issue. But I have seen the ignition switches go bad. In fact, on this Trailblazer I had, the radio didn't work and the transmission didn't work. Everything else did. And that's what I ended up finding out, was the fact that it wasn't getting any power through that ignition switch. And that's where my problem was. Go to upgrades for 700R4 or 4L60E. Oh yeah, there's jobs down here depending on what you want to do. For sure. I mean, we've had a lot of people come down there out of New Jersey and a lot of upstaters, just because it's been bad up north. Josh on the go upgrades. Other than just making sure you've got a good quality rebuild, in other words, replacing bushings, bearings, making sure to look at your reaction shaft, because those are a major wearing item. Your reverse input drum, because I almost always, on my builds, no matter whether or not it's stock or modified, I almost always put the Raybestos wideband in it, Kevlar wideband. Alto makes one. I just know that I've had better luck with the Raybestos Pro Series band. It's the 2 5/8 band. That's a good upgrade. Corvette servo on a lot of them. Good separator plate, Transgo. Just give it a good set of clutches. Raybestos, I like their clutches. Borg Warner makes good clutches, don't get me wrong. Just good, and good molded piston kit. Other than that, the Sonic stuff makes good stuff. Pump upgrades. There's the main thing, is just doing the pump upgrade. Making sure that things don't leak. Valve body doesn't leak on a couple of the valves. There's a couple of wet air tests you can do that Sonics tells you. Testing the pump, make sure the pressure regulator and the boost valves in good shape. A boost valve upgrade from the factory, 450 thousandths, I think it is, doing a 490 or a 500 thousandths boost valve. No, I've done Fords too. I've done Ford transmissions too, just not as much, and I don't mess with a lot of them anymore. Some of the older ones. So if I find no 12 volt DC at trans plug, put power to it and test drive. Yeah, pretty much. As long as everything else is working, it's got good connection in between the transmission and the PCM. If the 12 volts is the only thing that you're missing, put power to it and go drive it and see what it does. So, Josh, did I answer your question? For me, it all depends. It depends on, when somebody asks me to build one for them, the first thing I ask is, what are you doing with it? How are you going to use it? Yeah, I remember that. It should work okay. I mean, even in stock trim, it should be just fine. Josh, didn't you have that? Didn't you? Have you got the S10 Blazer and not the pickup? You got the Blazer? Okay, so you're one with the. So you get. For some reason I wasn't putting two and two together. So you've got you've got the body off the frame right now with the. Yeah. So you've got the body up on the 4x4 post with tied to the tied to the jack stands on the roller bases, which I thought was great. That was ingenious. I never would have thought of that. Never would have thought of that. I mean, that's freaking brilliant, is what that is. That's pretty awesome. I mean, that I probably couldn't come up with thinking about that. That's for sure. That's cool. My old Bertha, my pickup, I need to do a frame off on it bad. The old girl's just getting really rusty. That's what happens from being up north with it, Well, hopefully your driveway's flat. You roll it out of the garage. That'd be hell if that some bitch decided to take off and go down the driveway. Oh man, that'd be a bad day right there. I thought about doing that on mine too, but um, I'm wondering if there'd be a way to set that dude on my little landscape trailer and roll it around that way. I mean, if that would fit over the top of the landscape trailer or a small trailer, that'd be the ideal thing to do. Man, I can't believe I didn't put that together. I'm so sorry. I mean, I remember you sending me stuff on Instagram, and I for some reason it just wasn't clicking. Of course, I am getting a little tired, so. In fact, I think that I'm going to get these four-legged kids outside one more time, and I think I'm going to hit the sack. So if y'all need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. Send me an email or something like that. I'll be happy to help you if I can. I appreciate you all stopping in on this last minute live chat and about the valve body cylinder bore. And then 4L80s. Thanks, buddy. Have a good night, Steven. And Doc, on yours, the valve body cylinder bore. The 4L80s don't have a real issue with the valve bodies. They never have. So if you got something going on with the valve body, that'd be kind of odd. But send me an email with all your codes and stuff, and if you got any other questions, and I'll look at it in the morning. Like I said, I'm getting pretty tired. I can't keep my eyes open, so I need to get these kids out and get to bed. So y'all have a great evening. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks, y'all.